Okay, Galatians 5:6. For Messiah Yahusha, neither the circumcision or the uncircumcision has any strength, but belief working through love. So Lorene says this: the house of Judah is called the circumcised, of course. They're still in a covenant. While the house of Israel is called the uncircumcised. So if we replace the words, then it's easy to understand Galatians 5:6. He says, for in Messiah Yahusha, neither the house of Judah nor the house of Israel has any strength, but belief working through love. In other words, aman, a desire to verify what is true, working through love. Remember how the whole thing started, she says. It was the Pharisees that did not want the new converts to come into the assembly. You're not circumcised. You're not welcome. You can't receive any of the benefits of Yahusha because you're not circumcised. And here is the love your neighbor as yourself coming in. You know, you can't stand on takanot. You must stand on Torah. Love your neighbor as yourself comes from Leviticus. Okay? Galatians 5:7. You are running well. Who held you back from obeying the truth? So here's what Lorene says. Here is the whole matter explained. The new converts are obeying the truth. They're obeying the Torah, but don't carry the sign of the covenant yet. They're not circumcised yet. They are walking in the ways of Yahuwah, but the Pharisees don't see it that way. Remember, the Pharisees, Yahusha would say, you swallow a camel, but you strain at a gnat. Okay? You are trying to push your takanot, and you're trying to push this circumcision on people before they're ready to make the full commitment. Galatians 5:8. That persuasion does not come from him who calls you. It comes from the Pharisees. Galatians 5:9. A little leaven leavens the entire lump. Galatians 5:10. I trust in you, in the Master, that you shall have no other mind, and he who is troubling you shall bear his judgment, whoever he is. Okay? He's telling the lost sheep of the house of Israel living amongst the Galatians, stay the course. Don't let people bully you. You know who you serve. Okay? So here Paul is asking that they stay the course, is what Lorene says. Explaining Galatians 5:12 through 15. 12. Oh, that those who disturb you would even cut themselves off. For you, brothers, have been called to freedom. Only do not use freedom as an occasion for the flesh, but through love serve one another. Note, the freedom is the rest and the yoke of Yahuwah. Okay? Again, let's go to Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all of you who labor and are burdened, and I shall give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble, and in my heart you will find rest for your beings. For my yoke is gentle and my burden is light. So we read it the correct way. For I am meek and humble, and in my heart you will find rest for your beings. The Aramaic holds so true, and it holds meaning because now it gives us a glimpse as to what he's actually talking about. We have to consider that the last letter of the Torah in the word Israel is the letter Lamed. The first letter of the Torah in the word Bereshit is the letter Beit. If you put these two letters together in Hebrew, the word Leb means heart. In other words, the heart of Yahuwah Elohim is his Torah, and we find rest within his Torah that in the Tanakh, or in my Marcion best, in the Old Testament, The Torah is also called Yahusha, Yasha, okay? Yahusha, the deliverance of Yahuwah. Galatians 5:14, for the entire Torah is completed in one word, in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another. Are you going to bicker over your tachanot? Are you going to bicker over your opinion instead of paying attention to what the Torah actually says? We have it in Joshua. That entire generation was not circumcised for 40 years until they were ready and committed to the relationship. Only then could they be circumcised before crossing over into the promised land. Yahusha gave us the answer, and that is the great commandment of love. Matthew 22:36. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the Torah? And Yahusha said, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, with all your mind. This is the first and great command. What he just quoted was Deuteronomy 6:5. And the second is like it, that you love your neighbor as yourself. He just quoted Leviticus 19:18. On these two commands hang all of the Torah and the prophets. Okay? The Torah is about loving your neighbor, or is about loving and recognizing the presence of Yahuwah Elohim, and then loving not only yourself, but loving your neighbor as yourself. And that is what the Torah in and of itself, those first 5 books of the Bible, teach us in all of those events that take place. We have to learn to read below the surface and understand from the Hebraic mindset what it's talking about, and let go of our Greco-Roman mindset, because then we simply read it from the surface. Explaining Galatians 5:16-18. And I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are opposed to each other, so that you do not do what you desire to do. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under Torah. So let's first deal with you are not under Torah, but under the Spirit. Let's go to Ezekiel 36:26. And I shall give you a new heart, and put a new spirit within you, and I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and you shall do them. In other words, I will put the Torah in your heart, and only in that can the Spirit of Yahuwah Elohim be connected to you, because you are carrying the word of Elohim within you. So Lorene says, the set-apart Spirit, the Spirit of Yahuwah Elohim within you, will teach you to obey the Torah. Nothing has changed. Our Elohim stays the same. His words don't change. If you look at the list of chatat, of sins mentioned, you're going to find the same list in the Torah. Okay? So explaining Galatians 5:19-21. And the works of the flesh are well known. Which are these? The Torah says the exact same thing. Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, indecency, idolatry, manipulation, witchcraft, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions. The Pharisees who are trying to push takanot. Envy, murder, drunkenness, wild parties, orgies, right? and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. You go back into the Torah, you're going to find the prohibition against these very things. You just have to read it. We don't read it because, oh heck, Leviticus and Numbers, oh, that's boring. We fall asleep reading all that. We have to understand what it says, be willing to read it beneath the surface from the point of view of the people that wrote it in the first place. Okay? So, footnote, First Corinthians 6:10, nor thieves, nor greedy of gain, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers shall inherit the reign of Elohim. Again, Lorene says, where do you read and learn where not to do these things? Where do you go to learn how not to chatat, how not to stray off course, how not to stray away from Yahuwah your Elohim? Torah is your teacher. Without it, you'll never know what Elohim desires of you. His Torah is good and perfect. Therefore, we have to understand that we are responsible for keeping Torah. So you say Romans, oh, well, in Romans, Paul says, for Christ is the end of the law to righteousness for them that believe. Because you're reading it in Greek. If we read it in Aramaic, we're going to understand that Mashiach is the goal of the Torah towards righteousness for them that believe. In other words, Mashiach, if we understand the anointing of Yahuwah, the relationship with Yahuwah Elohim is the goal of the Torah towards righteousness, taking us towards righteousness for those who believe, for those who aman, for those who are willing to verify and trust what is true. Okay? Again, footnote, verse 21, it is stated that if you commit all of these transgressions, you will not enter or inherit the kingdom of Elohim. Galatians 5:22 through 26. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against these there is no Torah. Okay? There is no thou shalt not against these things. There is no instruction needed on these things. These should be natural things. If I love my neighbor as myself, I will have love. I will have joy. I will have patience. I will be kind. I will be good. I will be trustworthy. I will be gentle. I will exhibit self-control. Because I don't need instructions. This is a natural thing that was placed inside of us if we are in the image and likeness of Elohim. Okay? And those who are of Mashiach have impaled the flesh with its passions and the desires. If we live in the Spirit, let's also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. Really, there's no explanation needed for these last verses. This is what we strive for. This is what we desire to be. But you can only obtain this by obeying and serving and reverencing Elohim and fearing the separation from Elohim. And that wraps up our study of Galatians. I hope that this brings some clarity, and I really, really miss being with all of you, and I look forward to being with you again soon. I love you.